Well, Cedar Point's definitely one of the tops, especially because one thing that Cedar Point does is they always give you the world records.
So welcome back to another episode. This will be episode 81 of the BXG podcast. We have some guests tonight. I'm very excited about this. I had a chance to talk to one of our guests extensively just via text, and I'm super excited about this conversation. We have Paul and Janine from Trimmed and Stapled 125 Rollercoaster podcast. Is that all? Am I having it in the right order?
We call it the 125 Rollercoaster Challenge Trimmed and Stapled podcast.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a whole mouthful.
Yes.
But whatever order is fine.
Okay. And you can find that on Apple, Spotify, so on and so forth, right?
Yes.
Everywhere.
All the podcast services. Very good. Very good. So just before we get into everything, do you guys just want to give a little bit? Greg's here too. I mean, you know, for the
Whatever. I'm here.
He's around.
What it's worth.
Yes.
Hi, Greg.
I'm here.
How's it going, Greg?
Hello. How's it going?
I'm just so excited that I forgot
It's okay, Brennan.
to bring Greg in. So how, like, what's your background? You know, off air, we talked, you guys are Central PA. Hershey Park is your home coaster park.
Mm-hmm. So when Paul and I first met, Paul was terrified of heights, and I used to take the kids to the park all the time because Paul would not ride the roller coasters. The kids were at the age where they wanted to ride the coasters.
Mhm.
So I would take the kids to the park and ride all the crazy rides with them, and Paul would sit on a bench or like close his eyes.
Nah, I'd find a flat ride or definitely enjoy
Yeah.
like pretzels or something.
Oh,
Yeah,
come on.
So it was pretzels. But basically, so what ended up happening is a lot of this has to do with Devin. Who is my son, who is, Janine's son too. And basically, he was born deaf, but we found out about 6 years ago that he started to lose his vision.
Okay.
So at the time, I just recently turned 40. I'm a little older than most people. And I just came back from Cedar Point, and I got over the fear of heights. I kind of challenged myself to do it. So this was a way that he always loved roller coasters. So I'm like, you know what? Let's see how many we can do in 1 year. Let's give you as many memories as we can before you might go dark.
And when Paul called me and told me that they were going to start riding roller coasters, I was like, are you going to see any of them?
Yep, exactly. Because I used to close my eyes going up and down.
Right.
The lift.
And the first 10 or 15
First 10.
coasters on 125, Paul had to rewrite again because he rode them with his eyes closed.
Yes. And one of them was actually the worst coaster we've ever been on. I had to ride that 4 times.
You've ridden that a
I've ridden it
lot.
4 times. Mind Eraser at Six Flags. But so basically what happened, and people always ask, why 125? Why is 125 so special? And it basically started out when we started mapping it out. It was, okay, we could maybe do 50. Okay, maybe we can get 70. Oh, if we go here. And 125 does sound like a number we could probably pull off. And, spoiler alert, we did pull it off.
You did.
We did pull it
Mhm.
off. And that's what the podcast is. People ask how this turned into a podcast. Well, I started doing things with the Facebook, basically recording what we were doing, just kind of for our family. And all of a sudden we're looking, we have 7,000, 8,000 people following us. And we're like, okay, that's interesting there. And then there's a million YouTube guys.
Yeah, I mean, the Facebook thing more or less just started out as a way for you to track
Exactly.
what coasters you did in what order. It wasn't ever supposed to be like 8,000 people are now following us and whatever. It was just like, let's put it up for the fam.
Yeah. So, and also for, Devin, years from now,
Correct.
Facebook's not going
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
and
Because we currently definitely have a child who is entirely blind in one eye.
yes, so it's been
So it's not getting
progressing.
better.
No. But so basically what ended up happening was we did that. Then the following year we kept going. And then you and I were at Dollywood.
Correct.
And I learned a lot about roller coasters because of the YouTubers, Coaster Studios, In the Loop, Airtime Thrills, Coasters of Bruce. If you want to learn stuff, I used to always kind of want to know what I'm getting into. So I always check the POVs, but there's a million of them, but there's not many podcasts.
No, there's not.
So we figured this would be something that we can do. And one of the directions that we went with was most people, they talk about the news of the day and stuff like that. We are 4 years behind on the journey. So right now, if you listen to our podcast, It's actually the order that we did the coasters, the different parks that we did. We
Mhm.
just did one on Waldemere.
Mhm.
And our next one is we actually split Six Flags Great Adventure in two. So because we had a rainy day the first time
Right,
we
and
went.
we go to Great Adventure pretty regularly.
It's a home park for us. And so basically our podcast is kind of our journey. And then we do ERTs, which
Right.
what an ERT is an exclusive ride time. So it's kind of coaster lingo. And
And we did want to mention for anybody who's listening to your podcast, if any of this like roller coaster lingo jargon confuses you, because it confuses the heck out of all of our friends and family. We talk this like Klingon language. We do have an episode of our podcast that's called Roller Coaster 101, and it kind of explains all of this terminology and crazy stuff that we have going on.
Yep. And with that being said, people ask, so what's trimmed and stapled? If you're a coaster enthusiast, there's two things you never want to be. You never want to hit the trim brakes because it slows you down, and you never want to be stapled into your seat.
Yeah, because you lose feeling in your feet.
Exactly. Sky Rush.
Ugh.
So if you've ever been on Sky Rush, you might lose a toe.
Its nickname is Thigh Crush. It
Thigh Crush.
literally murders your legs.
So
Yeah,
did we answer your question?
I was curious about the trimmed and staple part because I'm thinking, I'm like, is it like a beard thing?
No, it's two things. If you're a coaster enthusiast, you never want to be trimmed in with the trim brakes. And you
Although
never
I
be stapled.
will say, if you have a beard, I would like it trimmed and stapled.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
For the record.
Fair enough.
Preferably.
Right. So hopefully we answered your question there. Started out as a family journey that kind of grew.
No, I think that's awesome. I think that actually probably that last part sort of segues, and then also some of the aspects of, Paul, your personal journey is, how do you talk non-roller coaster people into getting onto a roller coaster?
It's kind of simple because I was them. So I remember the first year going on Fury 321, which is
325.
325. Yep, that's right.
321.
Yeah, who knows? 32 Fury 325 over at Carowinds.
It's go time.
And I remember going, oh yeah, that's right. I remember going up the lift hill, just paralyzed, just looking at the seat in front of me, not looking left, not looking right. And 3 years later, I'm on another coaster called Leviathan over at Canada's Wonderland, which is 310 feet high. And I'm up in my chair looking out, trying to see Toronto. And I'm like, that was that moment where I'm like, I think I'm over the fear. I think I'm over the fear. And if you're somebody who's afraid of roller coasters, the easiest thing I could say is it always looks worse on the ground.
It does.
When you're looking at
Yeah.
the thing in front of you,
Mhm.
you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get on this thing? But when you're on it, you don't even realize you're up there.
The
You don't
up is
realize,
slower than the down.
yeah, especially Steel Force. Steel Force at Dorney Park is like an hour and
Steel
a half
Force half
going
the
up the
ride
lift
is
hill.
up.
Yeah, going up the lift hill.
Mm.
So,
I think,
but yeah, so just don't be afraid. Just tackle your fear. That's what I did.
right. I think the worst, like you said, it's worse from the ground. I had a horrible experience at Cedar Point with Millennium Force,
Okay.
Ooh.
as I was 2, maybe 3 away from getting on. And prior to this point, I'd never really been a roller coaster guy. And I was 3 cars maybe away from getting on. And one of them cars got stuck towards like the top. I was just like, oh, I don't know if this is for me. I'm not about that life, but eventually I did get on, and great ride, obviously. But anyway,
Millennium Force was actually, so basically I was scared to death, but on my 40th birthday, I decided to take the kids to Cedar Point. And the first day I was like, oh, you guys go have fun. Oh, there's only 2 of you guys. I don't want to be a third guy. And I remember the second night I was there laying in bed thinking, I'm never going to be here again, which we found out is a lie.
We've spent like 20 hours
yeah,
in a row
exactly.
at Cedar Point.
But I was like, I need to do it. And where I went first was Millennium Force because that's a big boy. Because
Yeah.
Top Throw Dragster is there. It's 400 feet, but it's a
Right.
one-trick pony.
Right, and we do King
Yeah.
of Cobb pretty regularly
Yep.
at Six Flags Great Adventure. It's Paul's least favorite ride.
I'm not a fan of waiting in line for 45 minutes for a 10-second ride.
However,
yeah.
we took my mom to Great Adventure. She's like 60, so it was really fun. And she rides roller coasters. For being a 60-year-old lady, she's afraid of nothing. And I put the 2 of them together
Yep.
because Paul gets very antsy in just waiting in line for King to Ka.
Yep.
And when we get on it, you're fine. But in line, you're kind of like, oh, I hate this.
You kind of, you look
And
at
my
it.
mom's there going, I don't understand. What is this? What's going on? So I'm in front of them and the two of them are behind me and we're on the launch run and you are like totally messing
Oh,
with
I'm totally
her.
messing with her. Everything I'm saying is like, oh man, it's going to shake. Oh, that doesn't sound right. Oh, that's not good.
It was
you know,
so funny. And then we go up the hill and you hear my mom go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
because you literally are going, you can actually see Philadelphia from there.
Right. And then we get off and she looks at me, same thing as Tower of Terror. When we did Tower of Terror. She looks at me and she goes, can we do that again?
So, yep. And she's very much what we call GP, general public.
Oh God, yeah.
So there's enthusiasts, and then we call you guys GP. So
Right. Yeah, we got her in line for El Toro. She's like, this doesn't look so bad.
and El Toro.
Definitely bad.
Yeah.
Bad.
But yeah, like going back to your comment is I was you guys in the past and really, just face your fear. Just don't do it on Mind Eraser at Six Flags.
No,
America.
not that one.
So.
No.
My first roller coaster, I remember first year we went to Cedar Point and I was just scared to death. I was probably like, I think I was 8.
Yep.
And then the next year I was like, I want to do this. And I'm just going to ride Magnum first time. So this is before Millennium Force. And so I was like, let's just do it. This is ripping the Band-Aid off. And, that was the best roller coaster they had at the time at Cedar Point. And so we did it and I loved it. And I was like, I've been hooked ever since then. It was like, it's fast and it's high enough and it's just enough scary, but not too scary.
In the water park.
Yeah. So
it leaves the park. So
I've rode that roller coaster by far more than any other roller coaster. We went there on my senior trip in high school and it was a slightly like overcast day. So nobody was there. And we ended up riding Magnum like 8 or 9 times that day. So yeah,
well, if you go back now, they have the lights in the tunnel working.
Yep, they got the lights.
Oh, cool.
2 years ago was like the 20th anniversary, I think, of Magnum.
A little bit longer than that.
Was it? Was it 25?
25?
It was some like milestone anniversary, and they got the lights in the tunnel at the end reworking, which was pretty cool.
Oh, that was cool.
Yep.
It's kind of like being in that little underground thing at the Chicago airport.
I've never been.
Yeah, you've not, but I have. It's like being in a Puff Daddy video in the 90s.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like you're in a cheese grater with lights going on.
Right. Yeah, you're on a roller coaster, but you feel like Biggie Smalls could be there, so it's okay.
Well,
right. Feel safe.
He might be. Yeah, he might be.
He and Tupac might be living together in the Cayman Islands. You don't know that.
We don't know that. Yeah.
My favorite park, and I think Brendan would probably agree for roller coasters and I've been to a decent amount. I definitely haven't been to as many as you have, but I grew up in that area too. I live in California now, but my favorite was Cedar Point and has been till this day for coasters. What is your favorite park?
Cedar Point's definitely one of the tops, especially because one thing that Cedar Point does is they always give you the world records.
They do.
They always are doing the better.
They're always after the record.
They had the first hyper coaster, which is 200 to 299, which was Magnum. The first 300 footer, which is called a Giga coaster, we call them, and that was a Millennium Force. And then actually for Strata coaster, the 400 footer,
which is top
thrill dragster. So they're always there for the world records. But for me, if I'm looking for my favorite parks,
at one point they were the park in the United States that had the most coasters. They've now been beat out by Magic Mountain.
Yes,
yeah.
But at one point they were the number one. We have the most coasters in our park.
Exactly. Now for me, they have the world records, but the Busch Gardens parks are beautiful and they have very unique rides. Both Tampa and Williamsburg have fantastic, and they're opening new ones. Today was actually media day for Iron Quasi at Busch Gardens, which is there's a company called RMC. And what they take these old wooden structures. You guys might remember Mean Streak.
Oh yeah, I do.
Yep.
Yeah, so they take Mean Streak, they use the frame, and then they put this metal track called Topper Track on it. So now Mean Streak has a 90-degree drop, and you actually invert through the structure. It's called Steel Vengeance.
Right. They basically gave Mean Streak an actual Mean Streak.
Yes, and a lot of people consider that one of the best coasters out there. They just did that to Quasi, which was a racing wooden coaster at Busch Gardens. It's now Iron Quasi. So that opened up today. And then Pantheon is about to open up over at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg.
Which is not an RMC.
Not an RMC, but it's a Intamin, actually.
Correct.
That's the manufacturer. And that's an amazing launch coaster. It's going to be the fastest, not the fastest launch, but it's going to be the most intense, I think they're selling it as.
So
quickest launch.
The real question is, which one is your favorite coaster park?
Favorite coaster park? Kings Island.
Right.
Oh, I love Kings Island.
For some reason,
park.
Kings Island, Cedar Point has the top, but for a coaster enthusiast, they have the most well-rounded. If you look at like apples to apples, Raptor against Banshee, Banshee's a better ride.
Absolutely.
If you're looking at Iron Dragon against the Bat, which are both suspension coasters, the Bat's always going to win that. Mystic Timbers is one of the greatest wooden coasters. It's a top 10 wooden coaster, actually all around coaster for me. You haven't done Kings Island yet.
I've not been in the shed yet.
So,
no.
But they actually have Orion.
Doesn't matter.
just
They don't
opened.
have a castle there, so like I'm good.
Yes, one of you guys is a Disney person.
Yep, that's me.
You can
Brandon.
talk to Janine about Disney.
Should I go and get one of my ears? I have 4 sets of ears just at the store alone.
Exactly.
So what do you think, if those are some kind of your top parks, what do you think are maybe some underrated parks for specifically roller coasters?
Well, I hate to say it because it's
Our
our home park. Our home park,
Hershey.
Hershey Park, does not get the love.
They say they have 16 coasters. We feel like they only have 15,
Oh, yeah.
maybe 16 if you count both sides of the racing
Yeah.
coaster. A water coaster is not a coaster.
Yeah,
Can we just be
Breaker's Edge.
real here, people?
Yeah.
Not a coaster.
But all in all, they have a very unique, and like I said, we're spoiled. You know, I drove by it today,
Mhm.
stopping at Staples.
Right, and we're complaining because
Yeah.
they're painting Sidewinder like these wild fluorescent
Exactly.
colors.
But it's got a great coaster lineup, and it's got a unique coaster lineup.
It does, because a lot of their coasters are layouts that are made specifically for Hershey. Hershey doesn't tend to buy clones. What we mean by a clone is a ride that is just made to be plunked down in a park, sort of roller coaster tycoon style. You
Yeah.
buy the ride, it's already laid out, you put it in.
Six Flags has a lot of those.
Correct.
Batman the
Hershey
Ride.
doesn't
Yeah.
do that. Hershey hires a manufacturer and kind of lets them do what they do,
Yeah.
which is what we appreciate about Hershey.
Yep. And they just opened up Candymonium, which is a horrible
Mhm.
name, but a great ride.
Oh, it's a horrible
One
name.
of-
It
It sounds like
fits
a-
though.
No, their marketing person actually got fired.
Yeah.
Oh no
after
way.
that
Oh
name
my.
came out. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Whoever came up with that name actually got fired.
Yeah,
That's
because
But
funny.
they kept the name.
it sounds like you're, okay, I'm going to drop the kids off at Candymonium and let's go on a ride. You know, it doesn't sound like a 200-foot roller coaster.
No,
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah.
So we have other names for it, but we'll be nice.
We do.
Yeah.
We do. We call it the Hershey Highway.
Or diabetes.
Uh-huh.
ride. I like diabetes to ride.
It's
Yeah.
literally brown track. It's brown.
Oh no.
Oh
They
no.
painted it brown.
Is it like the Hershey milk chocolate brown too? Because that's like
Yeah.
the terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
And then
a
they
terrible
painted
color
the
for.
supports like
Silver,
silver.
like the kiss. Like kissing.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I
So
mean,
we have.
Our listeners can hear my eyes rolling.
Yes.
it's not a great name, and the sad part about it was now they seem to be naming everything after Hershey, but Storm Runner was a great name. Fahrenheit, weird name, but best slogan.
Oh my God. And the marketing campaign, 97 degrees
And
and
falling
falling
fast.
fast.
Great
Oh,
little
that's
marketing
sad,
Oh,
campaign.
that's cool.
Yeah,
Coaster.
so they got really creative, and then Candymonium showed up. We're like,
Right.
what?
And now
Yeah.
we're just retheming the whole park to be Hershey themed.
We have a feeling that Sidewinder is going to be Jolly
Jolly
Rancher.
Ranchers.
Probably Jolly
I mean,
Rancher.
they painted it neon pink, green,
Yeah.
blue,
Yeah.
and with orange.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That's
you gotta
what
get a
everyone
Reese
had
in there
to
too
look for.
somewhere.
Say that again.
You gotta get a Reese in there somewhere. Gotta
They
get some-
have a whole ride for
Train.
Reese's. It's called Cup Fusion.
Cup Fusion, yep.
Cup
It-
Fusion. There you
Yeah,
go.
Yeah.
kind
Of
of a
course they
shooting
do.
park ride.
Right.
So,
It's Toy Story Midway Mania.
Okay.
everything
Okay.
she talks about
It's
kind of goes
Midway
back to
Mania.
Disney. We can be
Okay.
talking about dinner, and all of a sudden Disney pops up. I'm like, how did
Yeah,
shrimp
California Grill is
yeah.
overrated.
Exactly. So, but the other thing too is there's a lot of small parks, especially in Pennsylvania. I don't know if you guys have gone out to Altoona. They have Lakemont Park, which has the oldest coaster actually in the world. Operating
Hmm.
coaster in the world is in Altoona. Who would have thought that?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's called Leap to Dips. So underrated parks, Waldemere. I
Yeah.
just did that episode
Yeah.
there. Ravine Flyer 2 is just a fantastic ride that most people wouldn't really think about going up the Erie to ride coasters, but
Right.
there's a lot of smaller parks that are very shocking.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
will not ride Leaps the Dips if you have literally an old man carrying a hammer around that's like, I rebuilt this ride and he's in the park
Yeah.
wearing his over. I'm probably out on that one.
Devin literally said it looks like somebody went to Home Depot.
Yeah.
He just
Yeah.
but you know what? It's a credit.
We
and
could
it's
build
a-
that in our
I'll
backyard.
I'll tell you what, Idlewild. The
Yep.
whole park to me looks like that. The whole
We were
park.
Yeah,
is-
oh, yeah.
We just went to Idlewild.
Yeah, last year
Yeah.
we went for the first time, and actually, you want to tell the story of the what's that one called?
Which one?
Roller.
Oh, roller coaster. So we were there all day, and I will say I was very excited about their bathrooms.
Yes,
They
very
have
nice.
a whole carousel themed bathroom, which for me was very fun.
Yeah,
But we were at Idlewild. We were waiting all day. Roller coaster. We drove like an hour and a half. We just wanted
Hour
roller
and a half.
coaster.
It was like 5 hours.
Was it really that far? It was
That's by
far.
Pittsburgh.
It was really far.
Yeah, it's like Latrobe.
Yeah.
You're right. It is.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
far.
it was a ride. It was a
far.
ride. If we were
I
going to
don't know.
get that
I
credit.
don't drive. I'm just in the passenger
That
seat.
is true.
So
Yeah.
Janine has given up driving. She doesn't drive anymore. And we were there, and we're like, we finally walked up to security, and we're like, so, like, are you gonna open roller coaster? And they're like, probably.
You know, like in 2 hours from now. Or
Right. And
something.
then like 20 minutes later, they opened it. It was open for 30 minutes. We got 2 rides.
One
on it.
ride. We only
We
got
got
one.
one.
Only got
We were
one.
in line for the
Yep.
second one, and they shut it down.
Storm came
Wow.
by, and all of a sudden it was done there. But
So we
Did the
feel
same
like
thing with the
maybe they
mouse
opened it
when I
just
was
for
there.
us.
yep, the
Oh,
mouse. the
Yeah.
mouse.
That mouse is the weirdest mouse ever.
Well, when they say right there, there's going to be another stop. Brace yourself. There's a sign that
How'd
says
you
that.
like that
Yeah.
stop?
Yeah.
And
That's a
then
that's
going
a trim
up the
brake,
lift hill sideways.
and that's what a trim brake is, by the way. So if you like that,
But
that's-
Okay.
Like we thought the Storybook Land at Idlewild
Storybook Land was
kind
good,
of wild.
and also trolley.
And we all that
Trolley,
weird
yeah.
walkthrough.
Oh yeah, that weird thing. Yeah, so
That is the only right. So I get no motion sickness, but their weird funhouse walkthrough thing. Not that
yeah. No, I know which one you mean.
yeah,
It's-
that made me actually
it's right by the
motion
train
sick
station, yeah.
without that was weird.
And that was something. You're right. It looks like they built that themselves.
they totally
Yeah.
did.
That was some guy drunk and
The storybook thing just could use like some, I mean, when we were there, some lawn maintenance and maybe like a
Absolutely.
fresh coat of
Oh,
paint
no, it
for the
was
entire
definitely-
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Kennywood has that feel too for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you go back to our first episode, Kennywood, our first year, was our least favorite park because when I was growing up, I went to school over in Erie for a little bit, and everyone was saying, "Oh, Cedar Point, oh no, Kennywood's better, Kennywood's better," and so I went to Kennywood expecting it to be Cedar Point or something like that,
Yeah.
and it was a drunk, dorny park.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
and
so-
Devin went for the first time.
First time,
And then
yeah.
when you and I went, I was like, oh, so it's Knoebels.
Yep. It's a Knoebels with a little cleaner
I was
bathroom.
like,
Yeah.
it's Knoebels with
And
paper
it smells like river water,
Yeah. Well, at one
which
point,
is
I guess.
not what you
I
want
guess in the
in
90s,
Pittsburgh.
No.
Phantom came out around the
Yeah.
same time as Magnum, so they were even. But the problem was Kennywood stopped and Cedar Point kept going.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So we've got to the parks, but what's your top 5 favorite coasters that you've done so far on
This
this
is the
journey?
episode there. So Janine has a slightly different one with us, but
No,
we do
I
agree
think
on
the
that.
top 5 is
Top
pretty
5
close.
solid?
I really disagreed with Paul's 25 to 50.
Yeah, I got beat up. If you want to hear us argue, if you want to see me cower, as that episode there, Simply the Best Part 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, number 5 is Steel Vengeance. I told you about that before. That's over
Yeah.
at Cedar Point. That is an RMC of Mean Streak. A lot of people consider that number 1
Yeah.
on that end. Number 4 is El Toro, which is over at Six Flags Great Adventure. It is by far the most intense one coaster you've ever been on.
It'll probably be better this year with the retract.
They had to retrack it because it literally actually jumped the track last year.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the back wheels drug for over half the ride.
Yeah, over half
and
the ride, beat
screwed
up
up most of the tracks. So
Yeah. I always tell people that El Toro is trying to kill you. I mean,
it is literally
it's-
trying to throw you out of the
It's
ride.
sort of throw you out there. Number 3 was Fury 325 over at Carowinds. It is all about speed, and you go under you fly underneath the entrance. There's this turnaround that if you look at it, it looks like a treble clef from music,
Yes.
and it's just so iconic that you actually like go on the treble clef and dive back down. Number 2 is still Lightning Rod over at Dollywood. we did-
love lightning round.
We did some rides on that. Yeah, we did some rides on that where it was kind of smoking when we were done.
Oh my god, it was like slightly misty raining, and we're sitting on the break ground, and Paul turns around and he goes, "The tracks are literally smoking."
It was
Wow.
I like
Yeah,
that.
it was. Now they've retracked Lightning Rod since we rode it. They had some issues with it,
It was
some
the first-
engineering issues.
It was the first wooden launch coaster ever.
Correct.
So,
and RMC did the tracking, and the launch was from somebody else, or not. really sure who screwed it up because the problem wasn't with either the launch or the ride. It was with the ground that was underneath the ride. So whoever had their engineer there, their engineer needs to be fired.
So what it is RMC, that company has two different kinds of tracks. They have topper track, which is the steel track.
And that's what they use when they redo these old coasters like Main Street.
iBox is the metal one. And then topper track is their special wooden. Lightning Rod was 100% topper track wood.
Correct.
But it was so intense that they actually took parts of it and turned it into topper track.
Yeah.
So we actually haven't been back. So that's why I kind of dropped a little bit, because we're like, okay, what is it like now? And then number one, we both agree it's over at King's Dominion over near Richmond, Virginia. And it's another RMC. There used to be a ride there called Hurler. It was actually themed after Wayne's World. So that's why.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
It was actually themed after that. They took out Hurler and they turned in RMC, and it became Twisted Timbers.
Correct. Yes.
And what I love about this one is it has great airtime. You're flying the whole time.
Such a great ride.
But the drop, you actually barrel roll as you drop. So as you're dropping, you're spinning.
Cool. Yeah.
Really,
that's cool. That's cool.
Now, Iron Quasi, the one that just opened for the media today, they have that same structure. But when you're over at Twisted Timbers, you're basically going 5 miles an hour, then dropping. Here, you actually hit it at 70 miles an hour.
And then drop.
Wow.
As you're dropping.
That's cool.
So I'm riding that next Friday. And I am looking forward to seeing what that's like.
And Twisted Timbers is great. It's a ride that kind of launched all the park outfits.
Yep.
Because that was the first time I dressed up to go to a park.
Yep.
We wore special outfits for that.
Yep. There's a group called the Church of RMC that we're friends
and
of.
it's a parody group. This is not a religious cult.
I don't know. Alan, the main designer.
He's a little afraid of the Church of RMC because they pretend that he's a deity, and it's really silly and fun. But one of us definitely wore a nun outfit the first time.
And it was not the guy. Yes.
So I have to ask, Paul, you and I kind of talked a little bit about this, and I said, you know what, let's save it for the show.
Yeah.
The tragedy of Geauga Lake.
So let's gather around, kids. This is that's story time. So basically, if you're familiar with Geauga Lake, and it's funny because everybody has an opinion on it. We're going into this. I didn't know much about this stuff, and it's kind of obvious what happened, but a lot of people, have their own opinions. But so at one point you had Geauga Lake, which was its own entity on the one side of the lake, and then you had SeaWorld on the other side, SeaWorld, Ohio. So Six Flags over time purchased in I guess it was the early 2000s, they started buying up a lot of parks, and they purchased Geauga Lake. So there you had Geauga Lake, Six Flags, and then you had SeaWorld. Well, the way it went was SeaWorld actually approached Six Flags and says, we want to buy it, because SeaWorld was trying to expand their market. They used to just be the shows. They wanted to get, if you go to SeaWorld now, you got some top coasters there.
Right. You have also the animal shows, but they've added the
Mako and Icebreaker just open. So that's what they were trying to do there. Well, Six Flags was like, no, actually, let's buy you. So they went over and they bought that side of so they basically owned it, and they called it, it's not it might have been Worlds of Adventure. Six Flags Worlds of Adventure.
I think that's what it was.
That sounds accurate.
It was actually the largest amusement park in the world. All right. So what ended up happening was Six Flags bit off more than it could chew.
I might be learning stuff on this.
Yeah.
Podcast.
Oh, I know this one good. So Six Flags, they bought off more than they could chew, and they went into bankruptcy. So when they went into bankruptcy, they let go. They owned Kentucky Kingdom. Kentucky Kingdom became Solo. They pulled some of the rides out of there. They grabbed Chang, which was a stand-up coaster, which is now Green Lantern over at.
Basically, the tragedy of Geauga Lake is that they stripped it of all of its rides.
I'm not there yet, because it wasn't Six Flags who did it. So Six Flags had to liquidate. So Cedar Fair came in. That's the parent company of Cedar Point, Kings Island, and all those guys. So they came in there. This was before they owned the Paramount Parks. So they bought Geauga Lake, which was going to be one of theirs, right? So with that, they got all the animals and all that kind of stuff there. They kind of turned SeaWorld into Wild Water Kingdom. They turned it into kind of a water park area because Cedar Fair doesn't do animals. Well, the following year, after they bought Geauga Lake, they had the opportunity to buy the Paramount Parks, which were Canada's Wonderland, Kings Island, Kings Dominion, Carowinds, and California's Great Adventure. Well, now all of a sudden, Cedar Point's looking and saying, okay, we now have our mothership, Cedar Point. We also have Kings Island.
Um,
Geauga Lake, it's too big. So all of a sudden they started, okay, we're going to send, was it Thunderhawk, which was their looping coasters. Now they sent that over to Michigan's Adventure. They took Vertical Velocity, I believe it was, or Steel Venom. I think it was Steel Venom. They moved it to Dorney Park. They called it Possessed. They started liquidating it. And then literally after they got everything out of it that they could, they closed it. Now the Water Kingdom stayed open for about another 10 years. And that died. And it was kind of funny because when they finally got rid of that, the following year at Cedar Point, they have a whole new water section of Cedar Point. We were like, oh. So a lot of people are always like, oh, Six Flags killed it. Six Flags killed it. Six Flags actually didn't kill it. It was actually Cedar Fair that actually decided to liquidate it because it kind of overextended itself buying the Paramount Parks. They bought it for billions of dollars.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
Because it was Giaga and then it was Six Flags. And just this is for the non-region folks that we have from like Texas and such. This is in Aurora, Ohio. It's probably about a half hour south of Cleveland, thereabouts. And it did, when they did buy that, I remember when Cedar Fair came in and bought it, it made like a nice triangle there within the state because you had Sandusky, you had Cleveland and Cincinnati. But yeah, I know.
One of the biggest problems with Geauga Lake was when they got that big, they didn't have the infrastructure. So you were still driving a 2-lane road to get into this huge amusement park.
Right.
And they didn't have the structure, and the city really didn't support it to put in the infrastructure that was going to be needed for something that big. And like I said, it needed a lot of, when they were two separate parks, they worked together for years. SeaWorld and Geauga Lake, as they were independent, they fed off each other. They would actually do, they were two different companies, but they would actually have the combo passes.
Yep.
But then and Six Flags kept that going, but then, you know, when they did that.
Six Flags is great to work with other companies. Cedar Fair is for itself.
Yeah. And the interesting thing to me is I would always like to know, would it still be around if Six Flags sold to SeaWorld? What would have happened if SeaWorld would have bought it?
Right.
Would it still be around? Because SeaWorld is a much better run. They actually put in a bid to buy Cedar Fair.
I mean, can we be honest? There has not really been too many SeaWorld parks that have incorporated animals and rides that have closed.
No.
The SeaWorld parks that were just animals have closed, but when they've gotten them both together, it's worked.
And then also, like I said, after Blackfish, they really need to have another draw. After that documentary beat them up.
Yeah, Blackfish was. Did we watch that together?
I've never watched it.
So I've seen that. I must have watched it on one of my nights that my ex-boyfriend left me alone at his house.
She's a little bitter right now.
Just a bit. Just a little.
Hence the wine.
Greg and I did.
Hot tub, you jerk. I'm hot tubless right now, and I have back issues. So.
Okay. Greg and I did a fright night at Geauga Lake when we were in college, and Greg got to be Dead Elvis and got hit on by old ladies
all night.
Elvis?
I got to be Dead Elvis for 3 hours. I mean, thousands of photographs. So no idea what I was getting into.
Dead Elvis swivel his pelvis the same way
I did.
Elvis does?
He sure did.
I sure did.
It was strange and unusual.
Love it.
Where all can we find you guys on social media? Podcasts?
This is Janine's part. She is
okay.
Let's get social.
So
make it happen.
Let's get social. You can follow us on Twitter now. We have Twitter. We are at 125 Roller Coast. No ER.
They won't give us ER.
No ER. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at 125 Roller Coaster. You can follow us on our Podbean channel at trimandstapledpodcast.com, or you can find the 125 Roller Coaster Challenge wherever you listen to your regular podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever. Paul did the work. We're everywhere.
And we actually are starting to do a little bit with YouTube right now. If you want to follow some of our live feeds, we used to always do the live feeds. We're posting some. We used to put them on Facebook.
And please ignore my outfits. They were really bad at the beginning. They're so much better towards the end.
She's not joking, actually. At Dollywood, we got special perks because they remembered her because of her outfits.
I wore black glitter cowboy boots to Dollywood.
Nice.
So like we got whatever sheet on lightning rod we wanted.
Yes.
Well, It was an absolute pleasure. I can tell that you guys are very enthusiastic about doing this. It's awesome. It really is. And you know, best of luck to you guys in the future with everything. I think it's really cool what you're doing, and
Thank
you know, the
you.
whole enthusiast thing. I mean, Greg and I go to parks, we ride rides, at the end we go home.
Right.
And
You
know,
mean we don't talk about them and listicle them on the way home, and we don't talk about the elements and none of that stuff.
yeah, it was very educational, I think, for
Yeah.
both of us. So we appreciate you guys coming on and taking the time. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you very much.
You guys having us. It was so much fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to seeing more of you guys. We checked out your podcast. We love what you guys are doing. So.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Not everybody from Pittsburgh's that bad. So
Hey, listen, we're not from Pittsburgh.
We're not actually from.
Listen,
I don't claim that. I don't
if
claim
you
that.
think Kennywood is a great park, we should talk. That's all.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? Kennywood, in all honesty, Kennywood actually redeemed itself the last couple times we
It
went.
did, because we have lower expectations.
But we also love
Sure.
Kangaroo.
And
Kangaroo.
they have a great carousel.
Have a great carousel and they have Kangaroo, which is a very interesting flat ride.
Yeah, they have that
well,
hideous
coming back,
Steelers roller coaster though.
Yeah.
We like
it's
that.
We
it's
actually
awful.
did. We only got on it. Your operations are really slow, but we did get one ride on Steel Curtain. So.
Oh God, steel curtain.
What
That's the worst.
what was that about with the
I don't.
face?
It's complicated.
It's a Steeler thing. Apparently, he's not a Steeler fan.
Well, you got to
I'm
get
not.
past the black and yellow.
All right.
You know what? I give him credit.
Listen, our neighbors are Michigan fans here, and I'm not egging their house, so you're going to be fine.
You know.
Well, they're outside on their lawn
Well,
having parties.
Hey, all I gotta say is good luck in trying to find a new quarterback. You finally actually are where Philadelphia's been for the last 10 years trying to find a new quarterback. We win a Super Bowl, but we get rid of him the next
Yeah,
year.
you sent him to
Yeah, we
somewhere
sent
else.
someone else. We don't want those winners here. We're from Philly. So,
All right. Take care, guys.
Thanks, guys.
have a great one.
Thank you guys. Have a great night.
You too.
Thanks. BXG Podcast publishes every Friday at 9 a.m. on Podbean. 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 a.m. Pacific Time, 4 a.m. Hawaiian
Aloha.
on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and other podcast services around the globe. You can catch us on our social media accounts, facebook.com/BXG Podcast, Instagram @BXG Podcast, @GTFills, @Y2B, Twitter @BXG Podcast, @GTFilson, @Y2B, and our YouTube channel, BXG Podcast. Take care.
Thanks for listening.